Hi everybody, I'm Kessan Van Groningen, and today I'm going to be doing my presentation on the TAC, so it's called the Treatment Action Campaign. So just a little bit of overview, I'm going to talk about what the Treatment Action Campaign is, a little bit of facts, some relevant activists, the social impact, and some other information that I found, and then to conclude. So the Treatment Action Campaign is a social movement founded to address HIV and AIDS, and demanding access to antiretroviral treatment, so the ARVs, for all South Africans. And it was founded in 1998 by Zaki Archmat. And I also included their websites. We're not going to look at that right now, but this is their website that you can go to. They have a website that kind of just overview of what their organization is, where they are, and some protests and campaigns that they've had. So understanding TAC, so at the time when the South African government was hesitating to provide ARVs due to the costs and political reasons, THC became a key voice in advocating for that change. And some of their goals were to be able to help the people have access to the ARVs, to end stigmas around HIV and STDs, to hold the pharmaceutical companies accountable, and to also hold the government responsible. So they focus on advocating for rights for people to live who are living with those HIVs. So on their website, they have a timeline where they were created, and they have a timeline from when they were created, which was in 1998, to currently right now. But some key points that I did find out from their timeline was, one, that they were created in 1998. In 2002, they had a protest around a movement for providing the medication, which then enforced the government to lower the costs in those medication, enable for people to have better access to those medications so they're able to buy it. And then in 2016, they also had another march where 8,000 people were marching through the streets for kind of this, like, their main goal, which is to end the stigma around HIV and AIDS, and also still having to be able to help these people have better access to those medications. So in 2020, they created an app. It was a modern art app where people can access their information about treatment. So I found that really interesting that this organization also created an app so people can have an easier way to access their treatment and medication as well. So their mission statement for THC that I found is, it says, THC engage in monitoring, advocacy, and campaign within the healthcare system to ensure that all public health users can access quality and dignified healthcare, and all people with HIV and TB can access prevention, treatment, care, and support their system. So some of their wider goals they had was to ensuring that the South African health system provides equitable access to life-saving medications and treatment. And another goal was public education. So pretty much going into the schools and educating people on HIV and AIDS and what it is, so people can feel comfortable coming out and going to get those treatments. So some facts that I found from the THC campaign was the prices of ARV was unaffordable to most South Africans, so they help reduce those costs, and it was about $14,000 per month for those people, which in US is over $230 a month for people to have access to their medication, and that is a lot of money. So I found that really interesting that it was so high, and I was very happy that they were successfully able to bring those costs down a little bit. And also something important that I probably should have mentioned in the beginning, for a little bit of background, the HIV and AIDS infection rates were high in the 1990s and the early 2000s, with hundreds and thousands of people dying occurring annually. And something I already talked about, how the government did end up lowering their prices, but they also, another fact that I found is that the THC campaign launched their campaign on International Human Rights Day. So I found that very interesting on how they were able to do that. And they were able to sue the South African government in 2002, forcing them to provide the ARV treatment to public hospitals so people can go to the hospital and get their medication and not just at the pharmacy where it might be too expensive. Um, Also, the South African National ARV program is one of the largest in the world. So this number here, I found out from an article by, this was written in 2019. It was written by Sarah M. Lander and Janet Felishman. They are public global policy associates. They did a research in Cape Town saying that 4,500 South Africans get infected a week with HIV. And I found that really interesting. And when I was doing it, I was questioning it a little bit. Like, that doesn't really sound true. But then I was also like thinking, like, are they credible sources? But I wanted to believe them just because they were a part of like the global policy who does this research. But the number still seems very like, is this really true? So this is what I found, but I could be wrong at the same time for them being wrong. So another thing I wanted to talk about was the HIV stigma and how THC has run numerous education programs to increase awareness about HIV transmission, prevention, and treatment, and has worked to reduce stigmas and discrimination against people with HIV. So some of these stigma may include isolation and rejection, so people not wanting to be around other people just because they have HIV and thinking like, oh, like I'm gonna get infected if I'm around you. And another is refusal contact with someone with HIV. So like I'm mentioning, like someone be like, oh, like I don't want to drink from you, or something simple where they might not get infected, but they're thinking they're gonna get infected if they have that kind of interaction with someone. And misinformation, obviously not knowing what it actually is or understanding what HIV or AIDS is. Fear of disclosure, fearing that they're going to tell someone else that, oh, this person has HIV. And also discrimination in the workplace and not being able to get hired or having a job because they have that. So something else I did want to point out is I think it's important to recognize these stigmas and to help reduce it, because it can save or prevent someone's life from getting the treatment they need. Because I lost my mother to HIV in 2019. So when I didn't actually pick this topic because it was related to me, but I found it interesting how it all connected in the end. And I feel like my family or I didn't know about this till after her death. So I feel like if it was kind of talked about a little bit more, or she was able to get the support and access she need, it might have been a different outcome or better access to treatment. So I think it's very important when it comes to these stigmas to really understand it and help reduce it. So some social impact that I found is that THC also saved many lives by having this campaign and ensuring that the people can have access to the medication and the treatment that they need. They've had a global impact in their policy, becoming a model for global health and advocacy, inspiring similar movements in other countries. Their awareness for the movement. So the movement helped destigmatize HIV and promote messages that is manageable to people, to tell them that it's manageable to live with this condition and how to treat it properly. And lastly, their healthcare policy reform. So THC contributed to a long-term reform in South Africa healthcare system, prioritizing patients' right and equitable access to care. So two activists I wanted to highlight in this in the THC campaign is Zach Achman. He is one of the co-founders in the THC. He was very open about him being HIV positive, and he was a global health activist. And something that really stood out to me that I wanted to mention to you guys is that when I was doing my research, I found that he refused to take his meds, the ARV meds, to advocate for access so everybody can have treatment for all the people with HIV. And I think that was a very powerful move to do, because it's like, this is something that can kill you. So the fact that this man literally refused to take his meds so everybody else can have access to their care is saying, like, that's very selfless of him and very it's a personal sacrifice that he made and a very powerful form of activism, and I think it should be highlighted. And the person next to him is Fatima Hassan. She was another co-founding member. She was a lawyer, and she challenged the South African government and pharmacy regarding the access of ARVs. So the she was part of the movement of helping people and challenging the pharmacies to have better better access to people for their meds. She was also a founder of Gender Inequality. She fought for gender inequality. She fought for LGBTQ rights. She fought for social justice for marginalized community, and her work is deeply enrooted in intersectionality, like we were talking about, because it goes across like allowing her to address complex for healthcare and social justice, not just one thing. She was kind of like she was able to understand everybody else from different perspective and kind of able to fight for people in different rights, pretty much. And also, so this is some pictures from the protests. Uh, this picture I kind of wanted to highlight a little bit because at the time, the president, he was hesitant to provide those ARVs meds to people, and he had like controversial views on HIV and AIDS, and it was kind of really sad because it's like these are your people. You're supposed to be here for the people. You're the president. You're running the country, but like you're not really helping in any way. So I just thought I would highlight that. And there's some other information that I found that there's a documentary called Fire in the Blood about about the HIV movement regarding the THC campaign, and there was just like a little clip. Is there anything? Yeah, that we can just watch. 2 minutes?
In July 2000, 4 years after the combination therapy breakthrough had changed the outlook of people with HIV in the rich West, the biennial International AIDS Conference was held for the first time in Africa, the continent with more than 2/3 of the world's HIV cases.
Over 2 million people were reported have died in that year alone. So people are fed up with being called to a conference, told how AIDS can be treated, and at the end, be sent home to watch their people dying without treatment. Where are the drugs? That's where they are. The drugs are where the disease is not. And where is the disease? The disease is where the drugs are not.
Protesters directed their anger at pharmaceutical companies. These drugs promised a long life, but they are too expensive for the 23 million Africans dying.
The power of the drug companies is strong. They have money. I've never seen that kind of anger which was directed at pharmaceutical companies. The American is not how everyone in America, everyone in Asia, everybody in America has access to drugs.
In the heightened and expectant atmosphere, High Court Justice Edwin Cameron took the stage.
Please take your seat. The court is in session. I'm here because I'm on antiretroviral therapy. I can afford my medication. Now, why should I have the privilege of purchasing my life and health when 34 million people in the resource-poor world are falling ill, feeling sick to death, and are dying? We need to change the facts that are going to lead to the deaths of 25 million people in Africa. We will change that fact. We will challenge the future, and we will intervene in it. Thank you very much.
So I just kind of wanted to highlight the video a little bit. Oh. And just to conclude, I think the treatment action campaign has been an instrument in securing the right to healthcare for people living with AIDS and HIV in South Africa, transforming public health policies and saving countless lives. And also, the THC approach exemplifies how grassroots activism, legal action, and community organization can create long-lasting social change. These are my resources.